Hello and welcome everyone to our Agile podcast. And today we are having such as a topic as you need a team manifesto. With me as a host, as always, I am Max, your humble Scrum Master at Luxoft. And please welcome our today's guest, Riccardo.
Hello, hi Maksim, it's good to be here. I'm Riccardo, Senior Software Engineer and Scrum Master in Luxoft.
So, about the topic, you need a team manifesto. Today we'll go point by point, what is a team manifesto, what is not a team manifesto, what's the catch, what's the deal for each and every one of us, and how to actually implement it. Starting with the first point, what is a team manifesto? So, Riccardo, can you please explain us what it is?
Yes, let's dive into it. So, to be simple, it all starts with a simple question, which is what does team means to you? And by answering to this question with concrete examples and stories, the team formalizes what is in the end an internal contract, the manifesto itself, so the team manifesto. And the purpose of this manifesto is defining a set of shared values and positive behaviors that are going to reinforce those values. At the same time, just for the sake of clarity, the team also come up with examples of behaviors that drive it away from the manifesto that has been agreed by all the parties, and that we should, of course, indeed avoid while working together.
Okay, what about the values? I've been looking at into the blog where I found the information about the team manifesto from you, actually, and there was an example that actually team manifesto also helps to mitigate the lack of motivation in the team. How is that? Can you please explain a little bit?
Yes, sure. So after all the stages that we have described before, there's the final act of committing, to follow this manifesto and
Mm-hmm.
to try to act by embodying those values for the whole duration of the teamwork. And I strongly believe that this helps motivation. I will make you a concrete example. In my experience, we had a manifesto where one of the values that we agreed together was deliver excellence. And in this example, in this experience, we had situations where, for example, client gave us, poorly refinement items. I'm sure that this is ringing bells to all our, let's say, audience of Scrum Masters and software developers. And how the manifesto helped? It helped in the way, in the fact that we knew how to and where to concentrate our own effort, the effort of the team by agreeing all together that we will commit to deliver excellence, to act at the best of our possibility, by knowing that this is a value that all the team feels that is important, we know that when we come up with a poorly refined item, for example, or an issue, we will give our best to solve it, our best to try to act like what we have defined. And in those situations, finding the motivation to act in unknown and difficult times on what has been previously agreed all together is important. It fuels the energy of the team with inner motivation, with something that starts from them and not from a project requirement or some abstract refinement process.
Okay, good idea. Good to know. Thank you for sharing. So let's maybe dive into the next point of what is not a team manifesto. As you mentioned, there is, let's say, a good part, right? Values that we do share, that we do want to follow up, and there are also some, let's call them baddies, the things that we are above. We do not value this stuff. We do not want these to be affecting our team, our fellows in our and our team members. But what then with all of that? Like, if it's not, can you say that team manifesto is not just a list of like we love like I don't know funny jokes, being trustful and being productive, or like and it's not only a list of the bad behavior that we should avoid. Is it maybe some sort of team rules or something like that?
No, it's actually a good point to address because in the article you were also quoting before, and that maybe we can also attach to the description of this podcast so that the audience, if it's interested, can read. One of the remarks I received is that, well, we don't need a manifesto, a set of rules to behave, like a decent human being, and that's exactly a good point. I mean, in the end, it's the bad examples, the bad rules, they are not a list of complete bad behaviors that we should avoid. They are not, the rules of how to communicate, how to interact with other people at the workplace. Of course, it's not like that, because it would also be impossible to have, let's say, a list of explicit rules not to follow. It's up to being a professional, behaving in a good way and acting to avoid um, basically working in a way that could offend people or could act in a or act in a way where people could have some resentment among each other. Of course, this is not something covered by the team manifesto. The role of the team manifesto is in defining the bad behaviors is to reinforce the positive values. So to say, okay, we agreed to these rules for us means that we are going to behave in a certain way. What's the farthest way I can think of um, that is not under the team manifesto? So if I can think of something that is bad, and how, I mean, as bad as I can think of, what would that be? If you're familiar with the Agile methodology, probably you know this in the Agile manifesto itself. In the Agile manifesto, we have the positive Agile value over the negative one. So, for example, I don't know, agility over maybe something like processes. So, content over process. All these things over the word over stands there just to reinforce the positivity of the first message, and that's what the T manifesto is about.
Yeah, but at the same time, Team Manifesto, sorry, not the Team Manifesto, the Agile Manifesto says that despite the fact that we value the things on the left more, we also think that the things on the right are also important. Can in can we in this context say that the bad values that we highlight that we do not want them to be in our team on the Team Manifesto level are highlighting the importance of the good things?
Exactly. That's exactly the point. That's why they are there, to highlight the importance of the good things. So that's why they are included. And we have to think of concrete examples and things to include, and we cannot just rely on common knowledge on how to behave on teams. It's good to emphasize also bad behaviors at some point.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's talk about such a thing as what's the catch. So, what is in the team manifesto itself for, let's break it down into three parts, right? For a team, for a scrum master, and let's call it for an end result. Any
That's
help?
maybe the most important point. Otherwise, why are we doing that? So
Yep.
for the team, I think the main important part is that by following the team manifesto, then we will see also a concrete example of how to build it concretely. But when you finish the whole procedure and you arrive to a contract, you have built a shared understanding of what means working together. I like to do this example in Noel Harari, which is a famous anthropologist, in his book *Sapiens*, explains that one of the factors that drive the success of the human species, of the Homo sapiens, is the fact that we are able to work together in teams according to a certain beliefs, even abstract values. Okay, and that was our success because this helped us to work even with strangers, with people that you don't know, that are out of your family, core. And this is true, I believe, also in software development and agile software development in particular, because if you build a set of beliefs all together, if you agree and commit to follow those values all together, then you really unleash the power of your team, because your team will be able to act and to solve lots of challenges and to drive their motivation from this contract, from this belief, because they will know that if they are seeing a positive behavior in the team, this positive behavior comes from the fact that all together they wanted to create a drive, a motivation for their teamwork. So that is, for me, the most important thing of the team manifesto itself.
So let's say, for instance, that let's assume I have made a team manifesto for my team, and we have a point like being involved. And at some point, we see that some of our team members is just starting to switch off, to be detached from what team is doing, from, I don't know, dailies. He starts to skip dailies, retrospectives, and then the guys in a team, based on the values that they have shared in the team manifesto, let's say it's being involved, right? As I mentioned before, being involved. So they have a spoken and written agreement that all of them should have this kind of behavior, and that means that they have authority maybe to approach the team member and ask like, hey dude, what's happened? Why are you like skipping our activities? Is something wrong? Maybe like you don't see value, maybe we can talk, maybe we can help. So this is the, let's call it, application point at some degree.
I like to call it more like positive peer pressure in a sense, because if you see that your teammate, the one that helped you really create this manifesto, the one with which you chatted about this, he made you concrete examples of why this value is important, and you suddenly see a change in it, there's this positive peer pressure, because the other people will notice and say, wow, something maybe is going on. Okay, maybe this person is facing some issues that may also be non-work related, because in the end we are human people. And that's also why, and maybe we can link this to the what's in there for the Scrum Master. That's also important for the Scrum Master, because in the end, if you see something out of place, if you know that that thing is out of place because it doesn't match with what it is in the team manifesto, you have a first signal. You have something to just say, okay, maybe I have to do something here, because suddenly the team is not really behaving like I'm expecting, like they have agreed to behave. It's like when you're driving your car, and suddenly the engine light turns on. Okay, it's good to
Mm-hmm.
have it there, because in the end it means that something wrong is happening, and you have time to maybe stop, to make some checks. Maybe in the end the problem was not that urgent, or not that relevant, or even disruptful for the car itself, but it's good that you have it there, so you have time to stop and to think, and then of course to act.
So in this example, we also jump to what's in it for a Scrum Master, and as I understand, that could be some sort of a signal, like signal system, let's call it like this, that can give you a warning on if something is wrong in your team, something is not going the way that you agreed and you normally behave.
Correct, exactly.
Okay, good. Thanks for sharing. And what about the end result? So how these could help us to achieve a better end result, like as a team, as a solid unit.
Well, that's the big part. Let's say that I have a strong belief here, that if you have a team that has shared team manifesto, and that maybe has a long experience, of working together, following a certain set of rules, in the end, they will behave better. They will have better performance than others. But as I'm saying this, please let's put an asterisk, and we will come back later to this statement, because of course there's something more to add. But for the time being, let's say that I think that in the end, having a clear set of values, of actions, and of goals helps the overall team team working effectiveness. Uh, Aside from that, there's also a kind of reputation that you build in front of your customer if you are
Hmm.
delivering something. And that's something I can also tell from the experience I had. By showing that, of course, in terms of actions, not words, but by showing that you are behaving like your team manifesto. And of course, you cannot behave like that if you don't have the team manifesto in the first place. But by showing that, the customer will see that you're not just words, that you are really embodying that spirit, and you all have act as a solid unit, like you mentioned. So if you all go in the same direction with the same spirit, with the same shared values, the customer will notice in the end. And of course, this will help you, because in the future, when maybe there will be issues, because of course there are issues, there will always be issues and things that don't work, and you will have to act and try to recover and do something. But in that situations, they know, okay, these people know how to organize themselves, these people know what they want, they know how to work together as a team. Let's put trust in them. Now, that said, we have to come back to the asterisk we opened at the beginning. This is a principle. Okay, the manifesto gives you
Yeah.
principles, gives you tools, ways of finding your own way. But of course, this won't automatically mean that if you build a team manifesto, then you will have better results, or I don't know, suddenly you will start, everything will start be pink and rainbows, because unfortunately it's not how it works. But
Hmm.
if you know your principles, if you know that what you work on every day stands on solid foundations, and you have built these foundations together, I'm sure that in the end, the results will come.
Okay. Then let's dive into the last part on how to actually implement it. And I would like to have a slight connection here with the actual added values that Manifesto has in terms of a team, Scrum Master, and the end result. For instance, how to implement it right, we will know in a second. But can I say that if it's implemented wrong, then instead of a beneficial result for a team, for Scrum Master, and the overall end result, we will have a situation when, let's say, a Scrum Master is offended because team didn't want it to implement the team manifesto, and he was struggling and nothing came out like at a good level, or nothing came out at all, and the team just didn't saw any value in making this valuable artifact for themselves. Team, as for the team, I don't know. Let's imagine that the team now starts to think that their Scrum Master is only about like playing some silly agile games and not thinking about the actual delivery and not letting them to code. And as an end result, there is a misunderstanding and maybe a little bit of a conflict between a team, a Scrum Master, and that affects the end result of what team is doing. So can that happen?
That's a good question. Yes, it can, of course. The point is that, as I mentioned, the team manifesto is a tool. Okay, and like every tool, a good Scrum Master should have it, let's say, in his set of things available. But he should also know when and how to use it. So, for example, the team manifesto is really good for newly formed teams, people that don't know each other,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what to expect. You don't know these people very well. You don't know what they think, what the team means to them, and having a process that helps them figure out the other people that they have in front is really useful. And from my experience, this is something that helped. It may be less useful if you have a no no very experienced team that work together for I don't know, ages, let's say years, and you suddenly come there, oh, now we need a team manifesto, we need rules, because you lack the reasonable motivation to do that, because people could feel, why are we even doing that? I mean, it's 2 3 years that we work together, we have found our balance, we know how to interact each other, and then, as you said, it can feel like it is just a silly game that the scrum master has to do to pass their time. So you have to be, let's say, wise to identify the right situation to use it. It doesn't mean that it's not useful for experienced teams, but you have to find out if they have the motivation to do that. Because in the end, we don't have to forget that as Scrum Master, we are somewhat servants, right, to our team. We have to
True.
facilitate, we have to boost our team. So we have to take everything with a grain of salt, let's say.
Totally with you on this one. And after we've unfolded this matter, could you please share with us on how to implement it with less consequences or in a right way, or how it could be implemented?
Mhm. So there are multiple ways of doing that. Of course, I didn't invent anything. I like the procedure that Barry Overeem from the Agile community, which is well known as Scrum Master, does it. So in the end, it is a meeting of, let's say, 1 hour and a half. Of course, it depends on the size of your team. So feel free
Mm-hmm.
to scale this, just not to lose too much time. But also, you have to be sure that you are comfortable. You have time to speak, to discuss, to make examples, because in the end, it is what it is. I mean, having time to make example, to discuss, to actually be sure that we are all on the same page, because in the end, this is what the team manifesto is about. You gather all together, you take some sticky notes, and you ask to your team to answer a simple question. So what does team means to you? Can you make an example of values, behaviors, like we discussed? The people write down on the sticky notes their values, their examples, and
Mm-hmm.
they are called on the whiteboard to discuss this. This is very important. You don't have, as Scrum Master, to read the sticky notes. You have to make the people explain, to take their time to make examples. You have sometimes you
Right.
also have to question them. What do you mean by that? Because you know your team, so you know when this is adequate or not. But sometimes you have maybe these shy people that don't like saying more than a couple of words. Try to challenge them, to make them feel welcome, to make space for them observations. After this phase, then you will start clustering all these behaviors, all these values, and come up with a list. I would say no more than 5 values. Doesn't have to be really a long list. After you have all this cluster, you will have identified the main values of your team. So what being a team for them means. As we said, once you reach this level, now challenge again your team and say, okay, this is the positive things, this is the value we like the most. Now, if you will be, let's say, in the worst team imaginable at this point, because this will mean that you will be acting all the time in the opposite way on the values you have identified now, what those bad behavior will look like. So can you make examples? And again, you clusterize, and you identify these, let's say, negative sides of the 5 values that you have just
Mm-hmm.
set. At the end of it, you will have a list of 5 values over 5 negative behaviors that you don't want to follow. Write it down in a document, very important. It must be a contract, and make the people sign it. So in the end, they will take their pen or virtual signature if you are online, because it's 2023 and you can do it, of course, even remotely. But make them sign in any way. And the act of signing this thing makes formalize the commitment. Okay, so in the end, it is very important step. Final thing,
Mm-hmm.
take this document and hang it somewhere in the office, maybe visible in the workplace. I have it here while we are speaking on my left in my home. I have the team manifesto of my team. because it's something that the whole team must see. Okay, it's something that they must have it daily in their job. It is important because it doesn't have to remain like an abstract set of words that we filled one day and then we forget, but it's supposed to be a living document, something that you feel and see every day.
Hmm. One question, only one question regarding this matter. What if it happens like, let's say, team agrees to take a part in contributing to the manifesto and actually create the one, but in the end, there are a couple of team members, or like, let's say, only one team member that refuses to sign it in any way. He don't want to put his signature written or with the pen on the whiteboard, online whiteboard, or even to put his name on the team manifesto in any way, not in handwritten, not in pencil, not even in like typed funny font style. Anyhow, what should a Scrum Master do in this situation?
Well, first of all, maybe something that is worth noticing is that you should make the people familiarize with this process before starting. Okay, so you should say, guys, we are going to do this. In the end, I will ask you to sign this document, and it is important because, and this sign will mean that, and then you explain. Because maybe, you know, there are situations where, again, expectations may be different. So people would
Hmm.
think that signing this document would maybe result, I don't know, in some sort of legal commitment with the company. And it's really important that we set these expectations and why it is, what does it mean signing this document? Because maybe, you know, it may be right. I don't want to sign. We know that signing stuff has also legal importance. So it's a legit doubt in the end if you surprise people by saying, okay, now you have to sign, and people
Yeah,
may be, yeah, somewhat reluctant to do that,
surprised.
and that's totally understandable. So first of all, I would say that, and normally if you make people understand what do you actually mean by this sign, it's rare that they would refuse to do so. If it is that situation, if you really it's something that they don't want to, I would say try to understand why. Try to bring these reasons inside the build of the team manifesto itself. Why committing to something to you is not, you know, you don't feel that confident to do it now. Is maybe something related to the content of the manifesto because we have written something in it that you don't like too much. And in that case, it's totally legit. Maybe we can go back and try to understand. It's a process, as I said, is a living document. It's something that people should be proud of signing. So if there's some
Hmm.
reluctancy, it's better that we address it really upfront. If in the end there are really, you know, something really against the signing for, I don't know, unknown reason, please
Hmm.
don't insist too much. I mean, in the end, it has to be a tool. It has to be something that people uses and they see value in it. If they don't see value in what they're doing, if they feel this is somewhat imposed on them, maybe there was something wrong in the process before. So let's take some time, take a step back, and reason again on where you are and what you're doing. Because again, it's a process and it's something that where everybody should see value in it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for explaining this important and last part. With this explanation, I would say that would be pretty much it for this session. Thank you very much, guys, for staying with us. Thank you very much, Riccardo, for joining as a host and explaining such an important topic.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure, Maxim.
And have a nice day, and we'll see you later. See ya.
Goodbye.